time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur Podcast. I am your hostess, Jeanette Anderson, and I am really excited to be here with Jackie Lapin. We've known each other for a long time from within this industry, and she is the original OB, original bodacious broad. OBB, I guess that makes you. Which is one of the highest accolades I can bestow on anybody. And I'm excited for her to come and talk to you about not only herself and her business, but how she helps speakers get seen and heard, how she's grown her business that is really quite an interesting model, and just, how she thinks about being a, empire builder at this stage of life. So thank you, Jackie, for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction. I never thought of myself as an old bodacious broad. Original bodacious broad.
I said original. Original bodacious broad, not old. Not that that's a bad thing, because the older I get, the better I get. So I'm loving that. All right. So I'm going to give you Jackie's official bio, all of that for those of you who want to hear the creds, the credentials, and so forth. And then I'm going to ask her to tell us what we really want to know, all the juicy, deep, dark secrets. And we'll go from there. So Jackie Lapin's mission is to help leaders, entrepreneurs, coaches, and authors like you find and secure their next clients by getting in front of more audiences faster. Her Speakertunity, the speaker and leader resource company, has researched hundreds of thousands of speaker leads, contacts, and has curated them to meet their needs. Jackie's Speakertunity members-only program provides leads for live and virtual events and meetings and conferences and podcasts and radio shows and videocasts and virtual summits and TEDx events and more. Oh my. Speakertunity is the ultimate speaker toolbox, one-stop shopping for the speaker. And for the last 12 years, Jackie's radio podcast tours have helped nearly 400 luminaries, leaders, filmmakers, and authors grow their businesses, sell more books, and create viewership and change more lives by introducing them to up to 900 radio shows and podcasts.
9,000, my dear.
9,000. Yeah, sorry, I dropped a zero. What's a zero here or there? So clients such as Don Miguel Ruiz, I can never say his name right, Dr. Joe Vitale, Marie Diamond, James Twyman, Arielle Ford, Hay House, and more. She's booked for more than 10,000 interviews and speaking engagements for her clients. That's quite the list of accomplishments and a whole lot of resources and information. So congratulations, because that takes quite a bit of time and effort to curate all that. It
has been. So, but we love it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so when did you start your company? This company?
This particular company, well, if you consider Conscious Media Relations, was about 15, 16 years ago.
Okay.
And then Speakertunity evolved out of that about 10 years ago.
Okay. And are you still running Conscious Media Relations?
You bet. That's where we do the radio podcast tours.
Okay. And Speakertunity was about 10 years ago. And I'm assuming that came out of the need for all the work you were doing for clients. How about we just give them those lists and let them go do all that work?
Well, and that was it. They kept coming to me and saying, can you book me for speaking gigs? I said, I don't want to do that, but I know where they are. So let me tell you. And that's how we created Speakertunity.
Okay. Awesome. So that's kind of the official bio of you. So tell us things about you that we wouldn't guess by looking at your website or, looking at your pictures or whatever. What would we not know about Jackie?
That I have, over the years, because of my years in public relations and journalism and all the work that I've done in this industry, I have a 12-page list of celebrities in all walks of life that I have met. I was pulling that out the other day because one of my friends was asking me to start writing a biography. And I thought, wow, I had forgotten about meeting so many of these people, but it's a very, very well-lived life filled with incredible high points, meeting amazing people.
Cool. 12-page list of celebrities. That's pretty impressive. Well, as long as you didn't put one on each page, but that's pretty still, even that's pretty impressive even. And so tell us about this well-lived life. What has been one of the craziest things you've ever done in your life that people would be surprised if they knew that you'd done that? Let's just
two things.
Okay.
The first one was launch the worldwide poker phenomenon. If you were watching poker on television in the core of that period of time, you have me to thank. I did the PR launch for the World Poker Tour and drove the poker boom for 7 years.
Wow.
The second one is, much like that, I launched the first 4 Los Angeles Marathon. I launched the Golf Channel and the 75th anniversary of the National Hockey League. And the last one is I was the queen of boxing in the 1980s, the major middleweight fights of the 1980s, did all the publicity for the big middleweight fights.
Oh, okay. You did the publicity. I thought you meant that you were actually in the ring. And I was like, okay, no, I would not have guessed that. Okay. But you weren't the actual one donning the gloves. You were
No, but I had media rooms filled with 1,500 media.
Holy cow. Okay, so your poop around media. Let's talk about what's something that you love to do that's got nothing to do with publicity or media or anything like that. What do you do when you're taking a break from all of this?
I have 300 roses around my house.
Ooh, all right.
And I love them. And I take pictures of flowers too.
Okay, so photography and especially flower photography. Cool.
And travel photography.
And travel. Okay, neat. Yeah, because you do get around quite a bit as well. So let's fill people in a little bit about your why. Why do you do this work? Why have you been in this field so long in so many different capacities? What's your purpose in life?
So when I was about 4 years old, my father got cancer. And it was touch and go, but thank God he survived, but he'd been financially wiped out. So he wanted to move to another part of the state to just start over. The problem was when we got there, it was incredibly unwelcoming to outsiders. And as a result, I was pretty much ostracized most of my childhood. I wasn't heard, I wasn't seen, I was basically ignored. I had no voice. And so when I got to the age of 11, I wanted to have something that was my very own, something that made me unique and special so that I didn't feel like I wasn't there. And so I married my 2 favorite things, which is writing and sports, and said, I'm going to become a sports writer. And there were no women sports writers in that era. And so at 20, I was at the Detroit Free Press. 21, I was at the Associated Press and on the front pages of the Los Angeles Times. At 22, I was a co-host of Dodger Dugout on Channel 11, and I was with the Washington Post. So I really achieved my dreams very, very early on, and then went on from there to have one of the largest sports special events PR firms in America, which I just told you some of the things that I did there. And when the media started to change and it wasn't much fun anymore, I realized that there was something else calling me. I'd written 2 books in personal growth that just seemed to, like I say, they were calling me. And so one was the best spiritual book of the year at the International New Age Trade Show. And when I completed that, I realized my heart lay with the world, with the people who were making the world a better place. And people who were teaching, coaching, writing books, etc. And so that's when I rebranded the company as Conscious Media Relations, and we started doing the radio podcast tours. But when I conceived Speakertunity, it was really the culmination of my journey, because for the first time, I was giving all of these other people a voice, speaking opportunities on every different platform so that they were heard. And that really what's called to my heart. Now, I would call myself a serial pioneer, but because I consistently do things that nobody else does. My business doesn't look like anybody else's. I don't have competition in that sense because I create things that nobody else does. And it's because I'm following my own guidance, that inner wisdom, that call, whatever it might be, that that I'm not paying attention to what society says. If I'd done that, I wouldn't have become a sports writer because everybody said I'd not succeed. I would not have had a PR agency that succeeded at the highest levels because all of my competitors were men who said, she's not going to make it. She doesn't know this business, until I was beating their little buns. And people are just will say, well, this doesn't look like anything else. I mean, you're not following the path, the traditional path. And I say, why should I follow the traditional path? That's the surefire way to put yourself into a lot of competition with a lot of other people.
I love that. Extraordinarily wise and very, very smart approach. I often do an exercise in when I'm doing a workshop on marketing and whatever, and have people mill about at the front of the room. Just give them a space and say, just walk around as quickly as you can. And then I have them stop and close their eyes, and they're all bumping into each other and it's awkward. And then I say, okay, now in a moment, you're going to open your eyes and you're going to do the exact same exercise in the same space, but this time you're going to go where they're not. And they open their eyes and they mill about, and it's not awkward. It's like this fluid ballet, and it's easy. We talk about the process and what the difference was for them. And, the first time it was awkward and difficult and hard, and the second time it was easy and flow and fun and so forth. It's about, where do we focus? Do we focus on the empty spots, or do we go where everyone else is? So this is, if you got no other wisdom from this particular call, which you will, then do that, apply that, go where they aren't. Don't follow the traditional path, because the traditional path, by the way, is probably broken anyways, because things are changing so rapidly. So how did you get that? Where did you get that gumption from, to use a rather old word, but because it sounds like at a very young age, you were very independently minded and very feisty and so forth. So where did all that come from?
I think much of it came from my father. My father was an entrepreneur at heart, and always was trying to look for his own path as an entrepreneur. But here's the thing that he said to me when I was 11, and most fathers would have said, honey, girls aren't sports writers. Why don't you become a nurse? My dad says, you do whatever you want to, and we will be there to support you. So there were no limits. I knew that I had a safety net, a support system that just said, you're loved and follow your heart. And so that's what I did.
How awesome. Yay, Dad. And yay, your parents. That's so cool. So what's been some of the biggest, so you've been in business now for quite a long time, your own business, grown a firm, and now you've been in business on this particular part of this journey. And I love, by the way, just kind of coming back for a second, that you combine that passion for spirituality and personal growth and the inner game, I call it the inner game of business, with the external and the outer game of business. I think that's a really wonderful, I think that's a very more common trend now. Wasn't as common back then, but I think it's so smart. We're whole human beings, and we bring all of us to everything we do. So it doesn't make sense to leave parts of us out of our business or business models. So yet again, being a pioneer. And I love the serial pioneer part. So what is the biggest changes that you have noticed in how you do business now versus how you did business, let's say 10 years ago?
Well, I think, in those 10 years ago, we were basically serving individual people for over a 3 to 4 month period. And that's what we do. We still do the radio podcast, sure. But when we created Speakertunity, we created something for everybody who is a leader, expert, author, coach, who needs to get in front of a stage to grow a business. And so then we were really serving the masses. as opposed to one elite person. We are now we have 500 clients and growing, and we're continuing to grow because our mission is to reach as many people as possible with the resources that they need, which is why that we have so many different products. And you can enter our system anywhere you need to go, where you are on your speaker's journey, whether you're at the very beginning, whether you're already established, whether you're a keynoter, you're going to find something different in our system based on where you are. And so I think that's another thing. I mean, in the beginning, we were really serving people who were more in the mind, body, spirit, personal growth, spirituality, health and wellness kind of space. Now we've expanded. And I think that's still a lot of the core of our radio podcast tours. But now we've expanded. So we serve everybody in the business environment. If you have a product and you need to get on stages, if you are, a trainer, if you are coaching a particular segment of the population, we've got stuff to help you.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest change for us.
Okay, well, that's the biggest change in your business. What's been the biggest change for you personally in how you do business and how you lead, how you think about your business? So not the business model, but the way of being with it.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that for growth at Speakertunity, we are highly dependent on joint venture partners, on other people spreading the word about our business. So I would say 50% of my time is spent in nurturing those relationships and not just the clients. And I spend a lot of time now in the marketing side where I'm doing podcasts just like this one, where I'm doing webinars for people's communities, where I'm popping into people's masterminds and really talking about educational things about how they can be better as in booking themselves, because that's my niche, is how to get booked for anything. And so I talk about those things educationally. And of course, at the end, we talk about the products that we offer. So much more of my time is committed to marketing than it was before. And that's fine. I mean, I love collaboration. I don't believe in a competitive world. I believe in a collaborative world. And so I'm always working with partners who see the same vision that I do for their people.
So is that a shift that you've noticed over the decades, that because you came up in a very male dominated arena and a very competitive arena, both in terms of what you were covering, but also how it was. So you must have been very competitively minded back then. I wouldn't imagine that collaboration was a big byword when you were 22 and 24 and 30. Was it?
Yes, but I will tell you, I want to make one little note here. When I was still a college student, I was writing for Women's Sports Magazine, which was started by Billie Jean King. And ultimately, and by the way, my editor there was Sally Ride, the astronaut.
Wow.
And later I was on the Women's Sports Foundation, where we really furthered women's sports in many ways because of the belief that it helps grow stronger women. Girls become empowered women. So while yes, a lot of it was male dominated, I still made the effort to be in the environment of supporting the growth of women, which is a collaborative effort as opposed to a competitive effort.
Absolutely. And you were with fellow serial pioneers, Sally Ride and Billie Jean King, and both women who definitely forged a path. So that's very cool. And were you able to kind of easily move between the two worlds? Because I think that that's something that is an interesting balance for entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs nowadays, is to find their balance between what I would call the masculine and feminine, not men and women, because it's not a gender thing, it's an energetic thing, between a masculine and feminine business model.
So I think that I have always recognized that I had more male energy than most women did. But I'd never wanted to lose sight of my female energy as well. So when I made this transition to being well, I shouldn't say that. When I was in that male competitive environment, I definitely played up my femininity because it was a strength and not a weakness. People were more open. People were more willing because I was a female to work with me especially from a media standpoint. And so that really worked for me. And so when I moved into this side of the business, I just carried both of those characteristics and kind of balanced it a little bit more. And because I feel that I straddle both of those, I work well with people of both sexes, and not just both, I should say, all sexes and genders. And as a result, I think that it's positioned me well in the second business to basically be open to everybody and what their needs are. And because I'm also coming from a place of service. I'm not coming from a place of dominance, and hard sales. I'm coming from, how can I help you? What do you need that I can provide for you? And if I don't provide it, who else do I know that I can direct you to? So when you're coming from a place of service, which really is increasingly something that both genders do, but predominantly in the beginning, it was more women. But today it's much more on both sides. You're going to attract more people like that, who share your views, share your wisdom, who share the kinds of viewpoint that you have. And so we just attract a lot of people who are, I would say, equity-minded, service-minded, conscious, and willing to support others.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think that falls in the category of we get what we expect and we attract what we are. And so that makes lots of sense that would be who you're pulling into you at this age and stage. And that, yeah, makes a lot of sense. So tell me what you think is, for a lot of maturepreneurs right now that are thinking of making the transition from employee to entrepreneur, they may feel like it's a little daunting to make that leap at 50, 60, 70, whenever they are thinking of doing that. What would you say to those? Because you've had experience working in the workplace and being an entrepreneur for a long time. What would you say is probably the biggest piece of advice you could give them about making that leap?
Don't let anybody else define what you can and cannot do. I'm 72. And I have started businesses and will be starting new businesses at the point in my life when many people are long retired. And I just go for what is in my heart. And that's what you need to do. Just forget the naysayers, forget what people have told you, forget what your brain says is not possible, and just go for what impassions you. And if you don't know how to do something, get great wisdom from people like Jeanette and others that know how to do where you're going. And the one thing about being at this age, you can't afford to waste a lot of time.
Yes.
So getting coaching and mentoring is going to really shave off a lot of the time, the learnings curve that you can't afford to miss at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Pitter patter. Let's get at her. We got lots to do, and less time than we had 20 years ago. So that old adage of when's the best time to plant a tree 30 years ago, when's the next best time right now. And if you want to plant a tree that's going to grow quickly, you better go get some good fertilizer and a good gardener. To stretch the metaphor way past where it needed to be.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
Build a support team. Don't try to do it all on your own. That's the other thing. It's a fact of life that we tend to get tired easier. So build enough people around you who can do what you want to hand off to them so that you are not bogged down. And when you're tired, you can rest. I mean, this year I took a 9-week trip to Europe because I'm thinking to myself, how much longer am I going to be able to physically travel and lug a 60-pound suitcase and 3 cameras on my back? And so God bless them. My team just basically stepped up. They said, you deserve this. We'll handle it. And it was such an incredible relief to be able to go and not have to think about almost anything.
Yeah, so that means that's when you know that you're now a business owner, not a solopreneur and an entrepreneur. When you've made the leap to business owner is when you can go on a 9-week trip and not worry. And so I was just going to ask you about team. What role and what's your journey been with building team? Because I know for me, there are times where it's the bane of my existence, having grown up, with this kind of own self do. I have to do it all myself, and so forth. That whole lone wolf thing. And having grown up as a child, having to do a lot myself because I didn't really have, I became the parent at 5. So for me, it's been a very interesting challenge to accept and really call in the right kind of support. I'm good at asking for it. I'm just not good at creating support that can make a difference, or haven't been. That's shifting now, but it has been a really interesting journey for me to build a supportive team to help me grow the company. What was that journey like for you?
Well, here's what I learned. And it took me a while because I was not an easy employer in the beginning, because I wanted everybody to live up to my standards, and I told them so. And I learned that that was not the best way to do it. But I built such relationships that there has been a very distinctive pattern. When somebody plans to want to leave me, they go find their replacement before even telling me.
Oh,
because they love me enough to say, I'm not going to leave her stranded. I need to find her somebody else who can fill my shoes really well. And that's been a real blessing in my life. So the message is treat people well if they are really good support and employees, and they'll help you find the next one. And that's been very, very true. We have I have a team leader in the Philippines who finally had to leave because of family issues. But then she trained her successor. And so when she finally told me she's leaving, she said, Camille's up to the task. I've given her everything she needs to know. If she needs me, I'm here. And then boom, she was on to the next one. But so I would tell you that if you're going to also go use people in the Philippines, they're fantastic, especially women, although not exclusively. But what you really want to find is a great team leader, somebody who is incredibly smart and thinks on their feet and will bring you solutions rather than just problems. And they're easier to find than you think. There's a lot of really smart women over there who've been grown up in call centers. They know the American way, and they're just looking for an opportunity to prove themselves. So that would be one thing I would tell you. And if you're looking in the United States, put out feelers to your clients, your friends, people you know, and see who they know. And this time we were looking for a radio podcast manager. I put it out to all of our radio show hosts. And lo and behold, I got a fabulous woman who's a podcaster, a healer, and lives just 20 minutes from me. And she's perfect. So you just never know where it's going to come from.
That's cool. All right. So let's talk about we only have a couple minutes left, but what is one of the biggest lessons you had to learn about growing your business financially? And I don't necessarily mean about accounting, but I mean about your context around money. Because one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs is they have a money set point. So how did you expand your container? How did you grow your business so that you could make more and more money and allow it to be successful?
So the best news possible was that in my years with PR, I knew what the going rate was for our industry, and I knew what my team could produce. And so I had no problem going to Toyota or the National Hockey League and saying, okay, please pay me $300,000 a year. Because I knew that we were worth every single penny of that. And the clients all said yes. So I have no problem asking people for big dollars. It gets challenging when you're dealing with much smaller clients who have much smaller budgets. And then you have to learn to be flexible. Sometimes you have to take your payments in 3. Sometimes you have to just stick up and just say, I can't do this, unfortunately. I know I'd love to support you, but that's just below the level I can actually do that with this team. So a lot of it's being discerning about what you can and cannot afford, but never undervalue what you offer. Create a price. If you know that you can deliver and attract the right people for that, don't keep lowering your price or go in afraid to ask for the big price. Go in asking for what you know you're worth.
Great advice. I love that. Let me repeat it. Go in asking for what you know you're worth. And Jackie, I really hear that came on the foundation of both experience and competence. And I think that a lot of people that are transitioning or making the leap to a new business, a new life, or whatever they may be, whether that's a nonprofit, maybe going back into the corporate workplace, maybe creating their own business or growing it, they think I don't have that experience with this exact thing. I have, competence in other areas, but they don't think it's transferable. So what would you say to those people? So maybe someone who's, a woman or a man who's 60 and they're thinking, well, starting a business, but I don't have experience in this. What would you say to them around how they could think about themselves in a way that would give them some more confidence to make that leap?
Well, if you don't have experience in a particular niche, well, first of all, there are two different ways you can go. You can teach what you know, the experience that you have, or you can teach the skills that came out of that. So in other words, you may be writing newsletters for a living, where you were. And newsletters are kind of dead today to a large extent, but you know how to write. So teach people how to write. You know how to create something that is marketing driven. Teach them that skill. So you can look at it either way. You can pick it apart for the skills that you have, or you can teach the content of what you know.
Brilliant. And I actually haven't heard it said that way before, but that's a really clear distinction. Love that. I don't know why it hasn't occurred to me to say it that way in the past. Those best ideas are always the ones, no, why didn't I think of that or say that? All right. So you have a gift for listeners that they can go and get. So tell us about that.
So if you're really just trying to figure out, you're starting the business, what is the speaker's journey? What is it that I would need to have in place if I was going to use speaking? And we're talking about podcasts and virtual summits and live and virtual stages and conferences and meetings, local meetings as well, and TEDx's. So what is it you have to have in place? What is the roadmap for that? So I have created the definitive speaker checklist. And this is going to tell you exactly what you need in what order to do it so that you're not floundering around or you're not intimidated by all of this. It'll give you some great suggestions. And then when you're ready and you're looking for speaker leads or what places to get booked or how to write your pitch letter or the speaker sheets that you need, the beautiful graphically designed showcase pieces, or you're looking for a way to connect with meeting planners, or you need someone to, if you're already getting paid for speaking and you want somebody to help you with that, then come see us. This definitive speaker checklist is a starting place. And when you're ready to move up into the next stage, then we at Speakertunity would be delighted to figure out with you where you fit and how we can be of service to get you on your path.
All right. So where can they find more information about you? So what's the link for that definitive speaker checklist?
It's called speakertunity.com/strategy.
All right. And spell out Speakertunity, even though I think it's clear, but
SPEAKERTUNITY.com/strategy.
Okay, awesome. And I'm assuming that they can go and find out more about you at speakertunity.com. Is there any other places that you'd like to connect with people?
Yes, if they're looking to get out on a radio podcast tour, say they're launching a book, or they have a new program that they think that they want to tell the world about, then go see consciousmediarelations.com. So either check out consciousmediarelations.com or speakertunity.com. And either one of those places, we will be delighted to support you.
Okay, awesome. Just before we wrap up here, Jackie, what's one piece of advice, although it sounds like you're a pretty savvy 20-year-old, what's one piece of advice that based on what you know now, you would have told that young girl?
That women have an incredible power in this world, and never sell yourself short. No matter what age you are, whether you're 20 or whether you're 72.
All right. Well, on that mic drop moment, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your stand, your example of, just gonna go until it's not fun anymore and until I want to go do something else. So for those of you who are thinking of becoming a pioneer in a field, there are lots of examples that you can follow, like Jackie's, of just going where they're not and figuring out how to do that. And like she said, teach what you know or teach the skills that came out of that. So you can do this if you want to start something new at any age or stage of how you're living now. So thank you, Jackie, for being that, like I said, the OBB, the original Bodacious Broad. And thanks for being such a strong supporter in the world too. I love that you have gotten thousands and thousands of people heard, and that little girl who didn't feel like she fit in is now helping thousands of people fit in and feel valued, seen, and like they make a difference, because they do. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, my friends, if you're listening to this and you are thinking about that next step, like Jackie said, please make sure you get a coach, a mentor, someone who can actually help you with what is the next step. You're going to get a ton of advice about what to do. Most of it is wrong. So call me, book a call, let's chat so we can talk about what that next step really should be. Thank you so much for being here, Jackie. Have a bodacious week, everybody. Bye for now. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.